Good morning. It's May 1st, and we're going to dive into volatility. We wrote a little bit on the Longbow arrows this morning, but I'm going to take you to the Longbow dashboard and let's look at some ETFs here that are really important to look in perspective as a collective. So here I'm looking at VIX. It's pretty much close to the oversold area. The low end of the range is 1538. We're at last price 1579. So we're under 16 with the VIX. We're really at quite a low level. And the volatility of volatility, that's the VXX, oversold. So in our client letters, we often talk about both of these together and what it means. So especially going into a Fed meeting, more earnings coming up from big companies, plus regional banks on a day that JP Morgan's taking over First Republic, and we're looking at low vol. Kind of crazy. And these are in the S&P. So this was actually showing overbought earlier today, but now it's just hovering just shy of that top end of the range. The range high is 417.37 and the last price 416.33. So, if you plug into this, we'll get to the next two in a second, and let me move this over. So the range here has narrowed, and we're really sitting there at the top end of the range. Again, heading into Fed meetings, more earnings season, very important to be looking at that, especially in the context of low vol. And why are we concerned about that? We're concerned about a lot of these things because we see the growth of GDP decelerating. We see inflation high and sticky. What do we think the Fed's going to do? Obviously 25 bips now, but there's a potential that it's going to be very hawkish speak. And if that's the case, I don't think people are ready for it. They're really thinking about those pauses and cuts later in the year. We also have later in the week the ECB. They're probably going to do 50 bips. It could be 25, but it might be 50. And that's what people are talking about because inflation's so high. Again, I don't think global investors are ready for that. Now let's look at NASDAQ volume. That's the VXN. And I put that in context with the Qs because obviously that's the corresponding long ETF for tech. This one I think was oversold. This really close to oversold this morning, and Q's really close to being overbought. So those go hand in hand. So you're seeing when vol is compressing, especially going into earnings seasons, tech has done well, especially those, you call it top 10 tech, keeping up the S&P and keeping up NASDAQ. But vol has compressed, and then you have the securities themselves doing quite well, and the overall ETFs, because there's a greater weight with the big companies, is doing quite well. But if we take a look at this is back, this is in 2023. This is, and if we look here, what are we seeing? It's been a pretty similar size range, and it's really narrowed recently. We're at the top end of the range. So we'd be careful, guys. We're not saying fundamentally that you shouldn't bet on Apple or other types of companies, but we've seen this before. Read the Longbow arrow note about how many times this has occurred in terms of the vol going so low. And when you think about the geopolitical events, also earnings forecasts coming down throughout 2023, yet expectations in 2024 from analysts going up, we'd say we can see where the asymmetry sits. So that's it for today. We'll catch you back tomorrow, Tuesday, before the Fed day on Wednesday. So mark your calendars.